All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Amy Christensen, and I am here with the Indiana Archives and Records Administration to talk to you a little bit about records management, records retention schedules, and what I can do as your records management liaison to help you as auditors manage your records. So I'm going to try to keep this presentation to 30 minutes so that I can give you all plenty of time to ask me any questions. All right, so a quick overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about IARA itself and the different divisions that we have. Then I'm going to talk to you about my position as the liaison and what I can do for you. And then I'll talk about records management in general, and then go into more specifics with retention schedules and different state forms that you will be using for your records. And then lastly, I'll talk to you about the County Commission of Public Records. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that. All right, so what is IARA? The Indiana Archives and Records Administration assists state and local governments in the cost-effective, efficient, and secure management of governmental records by providing services throughout the life cycle of records. This includes the creation, use, records inventory and scheduling, storage, and disposition. So IARA was actually formerly known as the Indiana Commission on Public Records. So if you knew us as ICPR, we are now IARA. We were officially renamed in 2015. So just a little over 6 years ago, we made that change. So we are now the Indiana Archives and Records Administration, and these are some of our different divisions. So I'll talk more about records management in a moment. The State Records Center, they primarily work with state agencies to provide temporary storage and document circulation for inactive records. And they're located, excuse me, they're located over on the east side with the state archives. And so the state archives, they permanently collect legally and historically valuable government records. They also provide public access to those records that are not confidential. And then they also maintain secure storage of microfilm negatives created by the State Imaging and Microfilm Lab. Then the Electronic Records Program, they advise government agencies on the management of electronic record formats and systems. They work with records management quite often, and they work to develop different policies and procedures related to electronic records. And then they also transfer and accession archival electronic records to the archives collections. The Conservation Lab, which is also located over on the east side, they restore and repair legally and historically valuable records. They serve as a resource for disaster preparedness and emergency planning. So if you have any records that got wet, or a pipe bursts and your records are all covered in water, they can help you conserve those records. And then they also provide government agencies with proper records preservation methods. And then the Imaging and Microfilm Services Lab, they perform preservation microfilming of critical records, and they have experience handling delicate and/or damaged records. And they also convert critical microfilm and paper-based records to digital access formats as technology and work environments change. So if you need a digital copy of microfilm that you can access on a daily basis, they can take your microfilm or your paper records and create a digital format for you. So it's a very, very handy service. And then the forms management, they assign master numbers, like state form numbers, to all official state government agency forms, both paper and electronic. And then they maintain master file folders on those state forms. And then they also design forms for agencies and then analyze and approve the design of those forms. So we'll be looking at two state forms that forms management takes care of. And then lastly, the OCPR is the Oversight Committee on Public Records. They are mandated by Indiana Code, and they're in charge of creating policies and procedures for IARA and do a lot of other things related to our agency. That's a little bit about IARA. And then for the records management section, we have two divisions. We've got the state and then the county local. You all as county auditors are part of the county local records management team. So we provide assistance and education for any Indiana government offices to manage, retain, preserve, and dispose of their public records. We create records retention schedules. We have some online training modules related to records management. Then we also create different public publications and policies. I mentioned a few there. The County Local Records Custodian Handbook is probably my favorite publication. It runs down anything related to county local records management. I use it on a daily basis, and I highly recommend reading it if you get a chance. And then policy 20-01 and 20-02 are electronic records policies. So I'll talk about those a little bit later. And then we also keep track of the different records and forms coordinators in the agencies. And of course, we answer any questions that come up related to records management. So, like I said, I am your records management liaison. I was hired during the pandemic in June 2020, mainly to help county local agencies across the state. I was hired mainly to do a lot of traveling, but of course with COVID, that has been postponed. And hopefully once everything clears up, I can get back out there and visit you all in the counties. So since I was not available to travel, we were trying to come up with other ways that I could be accessible to you all. And one thing we came up was weekly email blasts. So every Monday, I send out an email related to records management, whether it's on a topic that a lot of people are asking me about, or if it's about a change in a retention schedule, or like this coming week, I'm going to send one about a new employee at IARA. So if you'd like to receive those emails, if you're not already subscribed, just shoot me an email to CTY, which is short for county, at iara.in.gov. And I'll subscribe you, and you'll start getting those emails. And then more recently, I started a monthly chat on Microsoft Teams. So we're doing it the last Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. So next Wednesday, October 27th at 11 a.m. If you'd like to join us, we do it for 30 minutes. I go over the emails that I sent the last month and give you all time to ask any questions or any concerns related to your records. So if you'd like to join that, let me know too. I usually send out reminders in those Monday emails. So if you'd like to join us this coming Wednesday, shoot me an email as well, and I will send you the information. And then my entire job is helping you all. So I answer your questions. I help you with the different needs that you have related to your records. So, what is records management? So in general, records management for state and county local agencies is loosely defined as taking care of government records and retaining them under the requirements set out by the state of Indiana and federal laws using records retention schedules developed by IARA. And there are roughly three main reasons that every office in Indiana government needs an effective records management program. The first one is to perform its legal mandates and responsibilities. The second is to minimize the cost of record storage. And the third is to assure public access to those records. And then I did want to let you know that you have three partners in your county local records management team. You have us here at IARA, then you have your County Commission of Public Records, and then you all as records custodians. So reach out when you need help, and we'll be here. All right, so of course, at the heart of records management is the record, and I wanted to briefly go over what is a record, what is a non-record, talk to you about what we consider copy of record and duplicates. So a record is any piece of recorded information that is created or received by your office and documents the activities of your office, no matter what media it's recorded on or what format it's recorded in. A, a public government record is based on the type of information, not the media or format. So the media or format. So media is the physical type of container. So if the record is on paper or microfilm or CD, that's the media. And then the format is how the information is arranged. So if it's on a program like Microsoft Word, or if it's on a file type like PDF or TIFF, that's the format. We are not concerned with media or format. We're concerned with the type of information that the record contains. So with that, talking about records, let's talk about non-records. So a non-record is any piece of recorded information you might have in your government office that does not document the activities of your office or is a duplicate of information that is a public record. So a non-record would be like if you received a brochure from a different agency or um, a local company. That is a record that is not created by your office, so that would be considered a non-record. So with copy of record and duplicates, when you're dealing with duplicates, whether they're in the same format as the original or a different format, you'll need to determine which version is the copy of record, with all other versions being a duplicate. If the information is the same, you get to decide which version that is. So the copy of record does not need to be the original. It doesn't even need to remain the same copy over the lifetime of a record. So if let's say you duplicate a paper record into microfilm, you might decide that the microfilm is now your copy of record and the paper copy becomes a duplicate. And depending on your record series, you can destroy the paper copy because it is a duplicate. So the copy of record is whichever version of the information your office currently uses to fulfill the legal retention requirements for that type of information. As long as the information is an authentic duplicate and the format and media meet IARA standards, then any version of the information can be a copy of record. So that's just a little bit about copy of record and duplicates. So electronic records. Electronic records are any records created, maintained, altered, or deleted in a digital format. These records are subject to the same record-keeping requirements as paper records. So like I said, media or format doesn't matter. It's what the content, what is the type of information in the record. So, however, the complexities of media and format require agencies to think ahead and incorporate records retention requirements within record-keeping systems when they're being designed. Office holders and administrators must work with their IT staff to communicate retention policies for electronic records to their offices' employees and take the steps necessary to ensure compliance. So I mentioned the policies 20-01 and 20-02. 20-01 is the electronic records retention and disposition, and it is to ensure electronic records are retained in a trustworthy, accessible, and appropriate manner. Policy 20-02 is the electronic records technical standards, and it is to establish consistent standards for the creation and maintenance of public electronic records. And those were created in January of 2020. And if you would like copies of those policies, just let me know and I can email them to you. I believe they're on our website as well. So, and then the electronic records storage and file management best practices, that is actually still in draft form. But if you'd like a copy of that, I can get that to you as well. So I have some advice from our electronic records program. Megan Fukunaga, who is the deputy director, she says, in a nutshell, give files and folders descriptive names, devote time to cleaning and organizing file storage locations, whether they are in the cloud or not, keep personal items to a bare minimum, know what your responsibilities are for maintaining files over the long term, and understand which file formats will be your best bet. And if you, the handbook I mentioned earlier, the County Local Records Custodian Handbook, there pages 22 to 26, there's so much information on electronic records. So if you want to read that over, or if you have any questions, there's the email on the slide, erecords@iara.in.gov. So what is records retention? It is the practice by which organizations maintain records for set lengths of time and then employ a system of actions to either redirect, store, or dispose of them. So different types of records must be maintained or retained for varying time periods, depending on state and federal laws. Why is records retention important? Good records retention prevents audit findings and possibly prevents damages in a lawsuit. So there's that legal responsibility. And then it's also important to make records available and easily accessible. So yeah, now I'll tell you a little bit about retention schedules. So retention schedules tell us how long the law says we need to keep the various categories of records and documents we create or receive in Indiana government and what to do with them after that. The name we use for those categories is a record series, and I'll talk about record series in the next slide. But basically, retention schedules are just lists of record series. Each retention schedule contains all of the record series that apply either to a specific government entity, like auditors. You all have your own office-specific retention schedule, or to a broad category of government entity. So the other retention schedule that you all can use is the county local general retention schedule. And I'll talk about those in a minute. There are 5 types of retention schedules for Indiana government records that IARA and the Indiana judiciary have. You all, mostly as auditors, just need to know about your office specific, the county auditor schedule, and then that general schedule I mentioned. If you do have any court records by chance, you will actually talk to Mr. Tom Jones with the Indiana judiciary because they handle court records. So his contact information is down there if you happen to have court records. And then before I talk about record series, I did want to let you know that retention schedules are always being updated and made better for your office or agency. So if you have any suggestions or updates that you think would be good for the auditor's retention schedule, let me know and we can always update and talk about getting those changes made. So record series. Record series are records that share the same topic, the same legal requirements, and the same retention instructions, and they're grouped together under a single record series. And each record series contains a record series number, a title and description, and a retention period and disposition instructions. And there's an example that's actually from the clerk's schedule, but this came out of the handbook, so you can see that in the handbook as well. The record series number is a unique identification number assigned when the series is first created. Yours as auditors will have an AU in front of it instead of a CL for clerk, AU for auditor. The title and description is a formal name for the category of records and a brief description of the subject or program that the records have in common. It may list specific forms or reports that are included and any legal codes that affect confidentiality or retention periods. And then the retention period and disposition instructions. That is the where and what format and how long the records are to be maintained. And then what happens at the end of that period. So whether the records are able to be destroyed or transferred to the Indiana State Archives for records of historical value. And then to talk a little bit more about retention periods. Retention periods are the details on what the government office must do with the covered records. So the instructions under the retention period are written as briefly and straightforwardly as possible so that you all can understand what you need to do to fulfill your legal requirements towards those records and that no records are accidentally disposed of improperly or too soon. And so the instructions may include format conversion instructions, information on how long the records need to remain, and what finally happens to your records after the retention period is over. And I listed a few examples there of what might be listed under retention period. All right. So like I said, you all as auditors will use your office-specific retention schedule, which is the county auditor schedule. And there's an example of the first page of your schedule. So when you're looking for records, you always start with your office-specific schedule, and then you turn to the county local general retention schedule. And if you can't find it on the general, that's when you can contact me and I can do some research and see where your records, if they are on a retention schedule or if they are not. So you've looked at the auditors and now you've turned to the county local general. This is, like I said, a general retention schedule that applies to all units of county or local government. So any county or local agency can use this general schedule. Um, but like I said, make sure you look at your office specific first before turning to this one. And the general has it has a lot of different categories. Most people use a lot of the accounting and finance section, and the personnel records are on here too. So, yeah. All right, and then I just wanted to make you aware of some of the other retention schedules that are out there. Not every agency has an office specific, but here are a few that do. So the assessors, the clerks, coroners, treasurers, um, public safety agencies like police, fire, EMTs, they're all on that public safety agencies. And then some other local schedules, cities and towns. Special districts is actually going to be absorbed into the general. Um, I'm not sure when that will happen, but that is in the works. So like I said, we update retention schedules as needed. And so that's one that will be updated and changed. Public libraries and then the schools also have their own. Okay. And then so the two state forms that you're most likely going to use are the notice of destruction and the request for exception, which is more commonly known as the PR1. And then there's a link there if you need to find those records on our website. And then just make sure that you're using the most updated form. I believe we updated these two forms in 2020. So it has more specific instructions that will be helpful to you. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the notice of destruction. This is probably the form you're going to use most often. Um, so the notice of destruction is to be used only for documenting the destruction of records as scheduled on an approved county local records retention schedule. So I've got an example there from the general. If you have revenue records from like the early 2000s, you'll first look at your auditor schedule. You don't find it, you turn to the general. You find this record series, Gen 1010, Basic Accounting Records Revenue. And you see that the retention schedule says destroy or delete after 6 years and after receipt of State Board of Accounts audit report and satisfaction of unsettled charges. So you know it's been 6 years and you know that you've had an audit. So that means you can destroy or delete. And that's when you fill out this notice of destruction form. And you'll fill out the contact information. You'll put this record series Gen 1010 on there. And then you'll submit it to us at IARA. And then you'll wait 30 days. And if you do not hear from us, that means your form was approved, everything was filled out properly, and you can destroy the records after 30 days. After you destroy the records, you finish filling out the form. There's a destruction information section at the bottom. You'll fill that out and then submit it to your county commission. So this form's fairly self-explanatory. Just make sure you read the instructions and you should be good. If you have any questions, just let me know. All right, the PR1. The PR1 is for permission to destroy non-scheduled records or to transfer the only copy of a public record. So this form's a little more complex. You have more things that you can do with it. And this form is actually approved by the county commission, not IARA. So the NOD, the notice of destruction, is approved by IARA, while this one is, the PR1 is approved by the commission. So these are for records not on a retention schedule. And if you're unsure about it, just email me and I'll figure out if it is on a retention schedule or you fill out this PR1. So you would fill out the the contact information and whether you are trying to just dispose of records or transfer the records. And then it'll be approved by your county commission. The county commission will send their minutes to us, and we will double check the PR1. And I believe you wait 60 days if we do not contact you. You can either dispose of those records or transfer them to the archives or historical entity. But I'd also suggest if you do want to transfer records, you need to reach out to the archives or your local historical entity first to make sure that they want them. So anyway, that's just a little bit about the PR1. And then lastly, I'll talk briefly about the County Commission of Public Records meetings. So by Indiana code, the county commission, which is different than the county commissioners, I will make that caveat, they are required by Indiana code to meet at least once a year. They have to have a quorum to hold the meeting, so that's at least 4 people. The meetings are open to the public. The secretary is always either the clerk or recorder, and that is by Indiana code as well. There is usually a chairperson elected from one of the commission members, which I believe you all as auditors are a part of that. And then, like I said, they approve PR1s, and you also send your completed notice of destruction forms to them as well. And here's a list of the members. We've got the judge of the circuit court or a designee, the county commissioner, president, or designee, you all as auditors, the clerk, the county recorder, superintendent of schools, and then either the city controller or the clerk treasurer. And you notice that it says or a designee. Yes, you can send a proxy from your agency. We encourage you to send a proxy that is knowledgeable about your office's records management. But if you can't attend a meeting, we understand it. Just you can send a proxy, and that will that'll be fine. And then with COVID, we know that a lot of commissions weren't able to meet in 2020, but we encourage you to have your meeting in 2021, and you can have it virtually. So that is always an option. And then lastly, I just wanted to reiterate that the County Local Records Custodian Handbook is very, very, very helpful. It has replaced some other publications that are a little bit outdated from our agency. So it did replace the Guide to Preservation and Destruction of Local Records and instructions for holding a county commission meeting. So you can discard those and just use this handbook from now on. And then I did want to mention there's online tutorial for records management. It's a good basics and overview of records management in general. So I'd encourage you to review that as a refresher. All right, that is all I have for you today. Those are my 2 different email addresses you can reach me at. I do have a long, complicated last name, so if you just want to send an email to cty@iara.in.gov, I will get it there. And then that is my work cell phone number, so if you ever have a question, give me a call. If I don't answer, please leave a voicemail so that I can call you back. All right, and then, like I said, if you would like those weekly emails, just shoot me a subscribe me email and I will get you on those and send you reminders about the monthly chats as well. I hope I left time for questions. I think I did. All right, if anyone has questions, let me know.
Oh, right back there. Good job. My question is just to clarify, You used the word proxy when you stated that any of the serving board members could send in their place a designee that makes them a voting member.
Ooh,
Yeah, well, you used the word proxy, so I wanted to
I did.
clarify.
That is a good question. A voting member. Um, I'm gonna have to do some research and make sure that is, I'm gonna guess yes, but I don't want to tell you that without doing some research. So let me double check on that and I'll send Ricky an email um to send out to you all. Very good question. Thank you.
Anybody else? Don't see any.